apology from Councillor Phelps. Are there any other apologies? In case, could I have a mover, please, that the apology from Councillor Phelps be accepted, received and accepted? Happy to, if you wish it. Seconded, sir. Thank you. All in favour? Great. Carried. Declarations of interest. Has anyone got any declarations of interest not currently recorded on the register? And for the record, I've got no change from what's already registered to you. Any urgent items not on the agenda that anyone wishes to take into consideration? In that case, we'll move on to the minutes of the last meeting. And I'll get to the right page. Right, so minutes of the last meeting, has anybody got any changes, additions, amendments or other matters they wish to raise with respect to the minutes? If not, could I have a mover that we resolve that the minutes of the Risk and Assurance Committee meeting held on 8 February 2024 be confirmed as a true and correct record? Seconded.
Happy to release Jane Watts too.
Jane, do you want to second the minutes? Seconded by Jane, thank you. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. And I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed Risk and Assurance Committee meeting minutes of the 8th of February 2024. We'll now move to the action. I'm doing this electronically, so I've got 20 minutes to scroll through.
Yeah.
Mr. New Madam Chair, there are 2 items on the action list. The first one is the evaluation of the performance of the committee. I haven't got an update on that, but maybe you may have an update.
Last time we talked about this, we felt that the August meeting would be a good meeting to have a workshop as well as on this, as well as our meeting. So I've suggested that if I distribute the amendments or the questionnaires in hard copy last time, if I distribute them electronically probably near the end of May, and if people could get them back to me by the 30th of June. Now, is that reasonable given all the other workloads that's going on, including annual planning, etc., financials?
It'd be nice to work on something different.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. And then I will work on summarising them and getting them back to you at least 2 weeks for the meeting, and then have a workshop as at the end of the meeting before. So if everyone's happy with that, well, that's how we will proceed. Distribute them the 3rd week of May. Yeah. Able to filter them out and send them back to me by the 30th of June latest. And the results will be summarised and returned to people 2 weeks before the August meeting, which is what the 8th of August.
And the second item is to bring back the sensitive expenditure policy after inserting the OAT principles. That policy is on today's agenda. Recommended is moved.
So I'm happy to move that would the work plan be received subject, and we remove item 2 because it's now completed, and item 1 will proceed based on the dates captured in the minutes. Can I have a second to that? Yes. Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. And we'll now move to the 3 policies, revised human resources policies. Thank you, Simon.
Oh, it's a work plan.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, sorry.
So again, this is just a rolling work plan, so I've just moved everything forward. The only change since this was actually updated is a meeting with our insurers, who we have talked about having a workshop or discussion with council regarding policy limits and trying to find ways to reduce the actual premiums. We think that's a good idea. We suggest that if we carry out that we also include Madam Chair from the Risk and Assurance meeting, and also the CEO of Destination Westland, because they are impacted by our insurance as well. So I will update this rolling work plan to include that next time.
Everyone happy with that idea?
And people have been insurance and advertising
And insurance is one of the, in terms of managing risk, it's one of the,
Yes.
like before, isn't it? Hopefully transferring it for some of the risk anyway. So any other comments on the work plan?
Should we add in the evaluation of the committee that we were just talking about for the August meeting?
Evaluation of the committee.
Where you got?
That's not actually part of the meeting though, it's a workshop, so it's a separate exercise.
Okay.
So I think it's better to keep it under the action list, but not within the committee, an activity within the committee, it's separate. Any other thoughts on the work plan? Anything that anyone would like to add? Sorry, you're smiling. In that case, I will move that the work plan be received. Anyone second it? Would be your worship. All in favour?
Yeah.
Carried.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Your Worship and Councillors. This report is a review of human resources policies. There's 3 policies that have been reviewed in the last quarter. We have reviewed the volunteer policy, which is part of a 3-year cycle. We have included a new policy, which is a flexible work policy, but it's a merger of 2 policies, one unable to get to work policy and adverse events policy into a flexible work policy, so we've merged it into that. And the third one is the staff of conduct policy. This is a rewrite, a full rewrite, and it's more around focus on positive behaviours and expectations of staff rather than a dictatorial type approach. Just to highlight also that the previous policy for code of conduct did have the disciplinary procedures in them. We've taken them out because it's part of both the contract and it's legislative requirement that we follow due process accordingly. I'm happy to take any questions on any of the 3 policies, Chair, and take all of it as read. Just also to inform that the Code of Conduct policy has been out to all staff for review and endorsement and feedback taken on board before the executive team approved it before I come to this meeting.
That's good. And positive feedback generally? I mean,
You know, it's generally positive feedback and very constructive feedback as well.
Comments, councillors? Worship?
No, I'm quite happy with the James horse riding.
Thumbs up.
I think the flexible policy is good as well.
Yes, obviously, COVID sort of started the conversations around flexible work. We're just putting a more rigor around the conversation that needs to happen to allow us to proceed.
I have to be honest, I didn't realise that actually the volunteer policy was as intricate as was as far as what's got to be supplied or done.
Yeah.
And what's involved with that.
Yeah, we have a lot of volunteers, primarily for the library at the moment, and potentially future for the museum as well. They need, obviously, because they are managing or overseeing children, requires quite a bit of vetting to make sure that they, are compliant, don't put anyone at risk.
A couple of notes, but because I'm trying to do it online, I'm not as fast as I usually am, because it's not hard to do, so bear with. But 2.1, page 16, what did I get there? I think under discrimination, unlawful discrimination or sexual and racial harassment. Now, for some reason,
Sorry, which policy are you referring to?
on page 16, volunteers, 2.1, 4th bullet point. And I was going to suggest, it says here, unlawful discrimination or sexual and racial harassment, and I was going to suggest that be extended to and other forms of harassment, because it only restricts it to 2 types. That's
Or any form of harassment.
or any form.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, probably any form of harassment.
That was just a suggestion for your consideration.
Happy to endorse that.
And on 2.2, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullet points down. So this is just a pedantic editing person. Take reasonable care of their own safety as opposed to all their own safety.
Yes.
Happy to make those adjustments, Chair.
Page 21. This is what happens in the publishing book usage. You can edit it yourself and you get the green things all over it and so you get really spotty. Big one. Well, this is just an idea and I can see arguments for both sides of it. I wonder if it's worth referencing the whistleblower policy further up. So it's at the end under other relevant policies. But where it says about sharing concerns, I wonder if it's worth capturing it in that statement as well. But I mean, like I said, I can see arguments both ways. It is mentioned in the policy. It's worth having it twice, just to raise the awareness of whistleblowing.
What page do you want now?
21.
Sorry,
I'm better with hard copy, aren't I?
No.
Share concerns, point 18, share concerns if we
Oh, yes,
use the
yes,
law
yes,
policies
yes,
around
yeah.
publishing. I wondered
Follow,
if
follow.
it's arguments for both sides, if it's worth actually mentioning the whistleblowing in there, even though it's at the end of the policy and it's definitely an either or.
I suppose we actually have this quite publicised throughout the building that there is a whistleblower policy, so the staff are fully aware of it, I think, and obviously the staff are also aware of the policy that exists as well as part of the induction process.
It was like, I could see why I could see it's a good idea, why it's not a good idea, so I'll throw it out there. And interestingly, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, their latest 2-year, the authoritative voice on all fraud things on the planet is just coming up again, and whistleblowing and tipstering is still the top of how fraud gets reported.
Right.
And it's been like that, I think, since 1996, so it's a good thing to have. So, anyone else got any further comments on the policies? If not, I'm happy to move and resolve that the report be received and the following policies be received by the Risk and Assurance Committee: volunteer policy, flexible work policy updated, and staff code of conduct updated. I'll get a second. All in favour? Aye. And we'll now move to the quarterly report. Lindsay, I think. Lindsay,
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and councillors. I consider the financial risk report for the quarter ended March. I'll take it as read, and through the chair, I'll accept any questions.
councillors, your worship?
I just need to scroll used to that because I've just got to find my page, what I'm looking for.
Some of us normally have a hard copy because we're quite quick, but we try to do it electronically, and now we're really slow, so we've got to scroll through. Apologies before we do that. Just as an aside, with respect to the reporting for all councils in relation to the number of performance measures, I have had it mentioned to me that one of the reasons why the numbers are so many and the reporting appeared and the degree of auditing appears to be relatively onerous, and LG and Z also considers, is apparently it's something to do with Standard & Poor's ratings in international finance. Now, I don't know if we have a Standard & Poor's rating, but I would suggest that there's probably maybe 3 councils in New Zealand that have it, if not 4, so that may be another area where an ongoing project to try and get some rationalisation around the amount of performance measures and auditing that goes with them. And maybe something that we can push and having a discussion with the office about that in a couple of weeks. I just thought that was quite interesting because so many councils have actually Standard & Poor's, therefore have to comply with international financial reporting standards that are required by us. So it's just an observation at this stage because it's an unusual information. It's interesting.
So just to try and capture what you're saying, so 3 councils in New Zealand are measuring to Standard & Poor's. So all councils have to measure to that same standard, is that what you're saying?
Well, it's kind of like the other way around, but yes, in the sense that apparently some councils in New Zealand have to comply with the standard of forward
Yes.
reporting. So the default position has been what you
It's
just said,
amazing.
that everybody should do it. But I need to get that statement verified. It was a very reliable source that it came from, but I still need to get it verified because that's something else we can push back against around why are we having 82 pages of performance measures in an audited annual report. And if that's one of the reasons, then that doesn't apply to most councils. So yes, so we're still looking at those, trying to get some efficiencies in there and get those, another council said, a whole toilet bottle of it. Any observations on particular points in the report?
I would like to talk to someone at some point about page 77, the interest rate risk, and just have it explained to me, but I'm probably the only one in the meeting that doesn't understand it, so it can be a one-on-one at some time.
Bear with me, I'll go to page 77. Page 77. Okay, on that graph, you will see that we have minimum levels and maximum levels. We have a certain amount of our debt that is fixed, and it needs to fit within those two black lines. So if you look at the shaded tanny coloured one, that shows where we're at and where we're anticipated to be. So we are compliant throughout.
Through the chair, these are in line with our liability management policy. So what we're doing here is reporting against our policy so that you can see that we're actually complying with that policy.
Any further explanation on the?
Jane, does that answer what you're after?
Yeah, why is there a minimum as well as the maximum?
It's just simply part of the policy, so I'd have to go back to what policy decisions were made at the time.
Okay.
It's generally good practice to have a minimum as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Do we want to minimise it?
Councillor Beard?
No, I just remember when I used to work with interest rates when I was farming and we had a lot of debt and I would try to have it. But that's all, yeah. Minimise the risk.
The rates affordability are 67, 68. How often is that updated as far as the benchmarking, what it sits against?
I believe generally that's during the LTP process, is that correct? A lot of it's fixed in our policy. Some of it may be updated as we do the LTP process. For example, you've got 67. That's income affordability. That is basically a calculation there. So each of these calculations, and we can give you details of the calculations if you require them, but it is a full calculation.
Is that? Yeah. So it just concerns me, we're using that benchmark of affordability, how often that's updated against real costs. Because this is talking about basically impact, isn't it?
It's what we've got here is a forecast for the end of the year. So we've updated it through the year. We've updated that forecast through the year. So as we update that forecast, we will update this as to what it will look like at the end of the year. This has got to be calculated. It's a specific benchmark as per the Financial Prudence Reporting of Prudence Regulations 2014. It's a benchmark we actually have to provide, and we have to report it a certain way.
And the debt affordability one on page 70, that one is actually based on debt not exceeding 10% of revenue. So again, we've got the forecasts, etc., and what they are per the annual plan.
It's, you know, I know that's relative to us, I'm just actually, we sort of keep going back to that, looking at that, sort of thinking actually it's, you know, with all the councils around the country, it's a pity that sort of that benchmarking hasn't been done against, you know, rates affordability, against income for the average New Zealander, etc. Yeah, this is more interesting than anything else.
Yeah.
I'm stepping outside of what this is,
No,
so.
it's interesting. Just mentally going through the process of going until you do the.
I know, I don't know, I don't
So
know.
page, just your worship on page 70 regarding the qualified limit is that the average debt should not exceed 4,500 per rateable property.
And that is one that is determined in the LTP process there. But you're quite right, we actually do not prepare anything that compares to our earnings within Westland itself, which is probably more relevant to the ratepayers, but as a council, this is what we know.
I know, that's what I'm saying, as far as to everybody out there, it's actually quite a relevant, really interesting figure to.
It would be very interesting. You need to ensure the source of the data where it's coming from is consistent and repeatable.
Yes.
And you also need to make sure it's a nationalised formula that is used for everyone. So I'm not sure if anyone's done any work on this in the past. So yeah, it'd have to be a standardised process.
Yeah.
Quite clearly articulated.
These are very prescriptive benchmarks, extremely prescriptive, even down to the colours we use.
Yeah, right.
There's definitely a metric around, you know, mortgage per percentage of your income.
Yes,
So
yes.
the rates could be very similar, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Any other questions?
No, that was, yeah, just with reading that, it kind of took me to the other side of it.
Page 49, which is the performance measure around the centralising of road condition data collection, including roughness data, and I wondered if that is, what impact that has on us cost-wise.
Sorry, what page was that?
Oh, page 49.
Sorry, can you go back?
So I'll stand on camera, otherwise people will know what I'm saying. The answer is 0. The CCDC is entirely funded by NZTA, so the impact on the WDC budget allocation is nil. And as it's 100% funded by NZTA, we won't be made aware of any more detail on what costs.
Nice to see 0 fatalities and 0
So that means that they're doing something for us that's not costing us anything.
Yes.
I hope we take a break so I can absorb that, sorry. Thank you. And page 37, I think I asked this last time and I apologise for not remembering the answer, but it was around the licence for registered premises, and now some of ours are on 18 months. Obviously our score is down to the number that get checked every 12 months, because they don't have to get checked every 12 months. I just wondered if we could, page 37, the inspections of food premises. So we're sitting on 24%, but that's because some of our businesses don't have to get checked every 12 months, every people they're on 18.
Yeah, that's
So I
correct.
just wondered if it's a way of tweaking the performance measure, because it doesn't look very good at 24%, when it should focus. Not a fair reflection of where we're at.
Sorry, I missed that. I was stuck in another financial email.
Under the percentage of food premises that are rented, that are checked every year, we're only showing at 24%, but that's because now some of ours are on 18%. So I wonder if the performance measure looks like we're not really doing very many.
Yeah, the issue with it is it's when they become due within a 10-year period.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. So if we had 100 premises, for example, being licensed, there may only be 50 within the given year. They're actually due for inspections within that period, but we're doing it on an annual KPI performance. And it might be that 15 are due in January and the next lot aren't till April, and then another bunch in October. So it's not going to show 100% in terms of the KPI until you get to the end of the financials.
We put some sort of a note on there about that, because it looks like it says measure is 100% inspected annually, and then you jump straight to the next one that says 24%, which isn't actually, we're not underperforming, so to tweak it something. That's okay.
And just so you're aware that we're also the same in terms of licensed premises for alcohol. Exactly, whether on a 12-month first licence application, 2-year renewal, or 3-year renewal. So you're always going to get those results in terms of percentage number on actual total number.
Page 63, number 9. Oh, there's a couple in here. This is all the other expenses, and thanks very much too for the really, really good explanations. It's really what all the variances are. Additional sampling costs, water. And my question around that is, does it add any value to have, is this the government imposed ones?
Yeah.
So it is. Does it actually add any value to the stakeholders?
It's a mandatory requirement that came through the Three Waters reform. So the volume and the type of water testing that we've had to do is significant. So if you got water schemes down in Hast, for example, we've got to get people down there to take the samples to get them back to get them sent off. It's the testing regime before that was not as potent. We didn't have any problems, particularly that were identified as a result of that. The general view is that it seemed to be excessive in certain places, but we've got no control over it.
What percentage is put on our rate this year? If we have that figure?
What I can tell you is that a significant amount of the costs associated with the minimum rate increase has come through Three Waters. So there's a lot of money in there. I need to come back to the percentage because it was done and we discussed the briefings on we can come back to the percentage for
So in theory, it's an unfunded mandate that's been imposed on us that we now have to pass on to the ratepayers.
Absolutely. And of course the original concept was it would be something that a council would have to deal with for a period and then it would all get handed over and picked up by the entities. But that's now not the case. And council also went through, we ended up having to chlorate water, we ended up with new monitoring systems that we had to put through on the capital as well on the same basis. What's happened, of course, is that councils are retaining the function, but there's no sign at all at present of the regulations relaxing or getting any lighter, so it is a burden that's being picked up by ratepayers.
If we'd gone with the old model, the burden would have been picked up by people that would have paid it through a different level.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been, somebody's got to pay for it somewhere, but it would have been picked up through water charges or whatever mechanism would have been in place at that point.
It would be interesting to know how much the rate increase would actually be for this unfunded mandate.
Yeah, we can do that.
On the undercharging with the blockage clearances, is that an internal transfer charge or an external provider?
It's a contractor who was charging us under the wrong schedule item. That came about as a result of the change in contract and they were undercharging us for it. Came back later and said it was a bill.
Okay. Consent fees over budget. And yes, I've got a note here. Is outsourcing like juice, or is this just because of staff shortages quite across the board? And oh, this is still sorry number 09. So it's consent fees over budget. Was on the Oh, here we go, resource and building consent processing costs are about over respectively, this continues to be outsourced. Is that something that we're likely to resolve in the foreseeable future, or is that just staff shortage?
At the moment, in terms of planning, resource consents for planning, the majority of those continue to be outsourced. A lot of those in terms of technical work and review as well. It's not necessarily the processing of the initial consents. Currently, we have two contractors or consultants that we are utilising on a regular basis for planning consents. In terms of building control, that's also been reduced to external at the moment in terms of staff that we've been able to get in. The real issue now is the volume of consents that we have. So in Westland, we appear to be an anomaly. Over in Christchurch, Selwyn seems to be a reduction in the number of building consents coming through, whereas Westland we continue to increase. So where demand is basically exceeding the ability of internal resources, we continue to go out to consultants as well. The difference with resource consent planning is that that is structured in a way, fees and charges, that the cost is as incurred and is passed on to the applicants, because technical costs can be, and building control is set by fees and charges. Where possible, we try and engage consultants where their rates fit within our prescribed fees and charges, but on occasion sometimes that's not possible. And of course in both instances, because they are set by fees and charges, neither can we charge to try and make a profit. Basically it is the cost of processing, not something seen as a money making venture. So going to be once again peaks and troughs where we can utilise staff in-house and reduce costs, we will. But unfortunately at the moment we're still in the market by many councils that we have to farm out. That's where the expertise lies.
We did get consent a few more back with some work done up at avenues, and same thing that we have to consultants.
Well, we're actually fortunate as a council, particularly in building control, that we do process in-house. There are a growing number of councils that fully do their processing externally now. They just do inspection for building consents, and the true cost of that, people making applications in other parts of New Zealand is significantly higher because they're paying that consultant rate.
Thank you. Page 76. Really easy question, the compliance summary. So the funding risk was compliant in April 2024, and now we're in May. I assume they're still compliant?
We are currently not, but we will be by the end of the month. We'll be drawing down an extra $1 million loan, and that will bring us compliant. If you refer to, I think it's page 81. Right, sorry, it is page 79. So the first part of this is the funding risk if we had done nothing, funding policy with nothing. The second impact of the strategy is where we're at currently, and we're at 62% for April, whereas we should be 60 maximum. But once we've drawn down this loan this month, we will be compliant again with 60%.
In the investments compliance summary, and nothing underneath it.
There's a little bit under the summary on page 81, where we are compliant at present. If you look at the investment summary, it's got the ticks under the compliance section.
Thank you. The only other questions I have were both around debtors. One was around rates, and the other one was around sundry debts with a bit higher, which is not unusual. I just wondered if that's because we're going into a recession and those kind of things, if there's the sense that we may have issues around collectability compared to normal, or
Potentially on the sundry debtors. The rates debtors I'm not quite concerned about because they're a different type of debt. But yes, I think you're right that people generally are struggling with some of their debt. We have fairly tight controls on our debtors. They go to debt collection after the 90-day period, and we have a fairly good success rate in recovering those.
Page 36, 37, going back to compliance. I see with the compliance category in there, we're talking building control, we're talking code of compliance certificates. We were talking basically food licensing, alcohol licensing, environmental health, but a lot of our compliance work is done outside of that. And there's no indication of workload involved with that. Is there any reason why we don't get that included?
So by workload, you mean number of each type of consent or license?
No, I'm not talking, well, I mean, we've got food licensing, we've got alcohol licensing, we've got building control, but there's a lot of other compliance work that's going on out there, but there's nothing to indicate what level of work that is.
So what sort of information would you be after though as relates to the financial risk side in terms of risk insurance?
It's more so the cost, I guess, to council, to the ratepayer of managing the situation versus no return. I mean, with food and alcohol, we're trying to ensure that there's a public safety component built into it, but I'm not sure quite how other compliance matters fit into that.
I'm not sure how that would be reflected in this report, but we can reflect in terms of number of licences that have been invoiced for. But in terms of the amount of work to ensure compliance and inspection of premises and the likes, that would really require quite a different analysis, and where that would sit in terms of reporting and how we'd report it or what value it would add to this committee. I'm not sure. Open to guidance on that one. Just depends what exactly you're trying to get from the information.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we're talking structured compliance in there as opposed to all the other general compliance matters that are managed. There's no gauge in there.
Through the chair, these are the adopted ones from the LTP.
Yeah.
They obviously weren't, there were
Yeah.
obviously no benchmark at that point.
Okay.
So maybe that's a topic for discussion
Yes.
for the next
Yeah.
LTP process.
Yeah.
That will
Absolutely.
be reported.
Thank you.
Councillors? No further questions. I will move that and resolve that the report be received and that the committee receive the quarterly report, Q3, January to March 2024. Do we have a second report? Yeah. Oh, 2 seconds. Thank you. Councillor? All in favour? Thank you. We now move to Richard and our AI policy. Thanks, Emily. Thank you. Thanks, Cody.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mayor, Councillors and iwi representatives. I am presenting today the AI policy. It's an administrative report really, but I am taking it as read, and I am happy to take any questions about our AI policy, artificial intelligence.
I know, I need to apologise for my chuckles because AI, coming from a farming background, I always think of artificial intelligence. So I have trouble with the AI and intelligence.
AI with a straight face.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do struggle with it, I still do actually.
So aside from possible confusion in the agricultural sector, is there any questions around the AI policy?
No, it's just, to be honest, it scares the hell out of me where we're going with it all.
So much more.
I'm glad. It is dangerous, it's risky, and this is why we're putting a policy in place to, well, we've taken advice from ALGIN, the Association of Local Government Information Managers, and actually New Zealand is ahead of the game compared with a lot of other countries on this. Technology is moving very quickly, and this policy is our attempt to temper the advances of technology with some common sense, to giving guidelines to our staff of when and where they might use AI appropriately. So I'm pleased to hear that you're worried about it.
Well, you know, all the fishing training and so forth we have, you know, you look for all those things now, but a lot of that's irrelevant now because they haven't got those flaws in their addresses and so forth. So, you know, the vulnerability is escalating daily.
And hourly.
Yeah.
I actually think this is the first AI policy I've seen anywhere, and I think that it's absolutely brilliant that you've been proactive with this.
Well, I won't take all the credit, because as I say, we've taken guidance from an ALGM template policy. But yes, we're forever playing catch up, trying to keep one step ahead of emerging technologies and emerging threats.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And even things like the disclaimer and stuff like that, because I think if everyone does a Google, you will find there's been some very embarrassing situations. Yes. People have written papers, and it's been an AI one. I do actually use AI, but I use it as a tool, you know, another way of gathering data, but it's certainly not an authoritative source or anything like that. But, yeah, no, well done. And do I have a mover that we receive the report and that the committee endorse the artificial intelligence?
No, Jane's got a hand up. I'm not sure.
Sorry, can I just ask a question? So the policy wasn't written by AI, was it, Richard?
I'm afraid not. Not I'm aware of.
Just I.
Because they may have deliberately put in little ways around things in there, but that's good to know. But 3.1.2, document migration. So just as an example, where do you see this ending? Like we seem to be updating systems and changing systems. Is this continuous, or do you think where we're getting to now will be the state for some time?
I apologise, sorry, you're on...
You're on the next report.
We're on the AI policy.
On the AI, or are you, sorry...
Oh, have I zoomed ahead?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm on page 90.
You've moved ahead.
Yeah, we'll finish this
Oh,
one.
sorry. I've only got a very small screen that I'm looking at. My apologies.
I'll tell you what, would you like to be the person that seconds that you receive? All in favour? Aye. Carried, thank you. And now, Jane, here's your chance. Once you're presenting it.
Thank you. So page 90, and I guess it's just an example, 3.1.2, document migration. So like it's basically a system being updated. Where does this end, Richard? Is this going to happen every couple of years, that we move everything to another system?
I'm afraid I don't have, through the chair, sorry, I don't have a crystal ball on where the technology is going to lead in the future. It is moving very, very quickly. What we're doing at the moment is migrating documents from a very unintelligent, static system to a more modern document management system, which does not have AI. We do build programmatically instructions such that a document can be identified. If it matches a pattern of a figure, that must be a phone number, or so on and so forth. There is AI being introduced into products. Some people may have heard of the Copilot product from Microsoft. People will have heard of ChatGPT. The technology is moving too quick for me to be able to predict where this is going. Potentially, we could have a big bucket of documents and just ask the computer to summarize them. Say, right, here's a bucket of documents. What is the average X, Y, and Z? Potentially. I don't know, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Aside from worrying about the potential of AI doing all the work on a bucket of documents, which is definitely worrying, but any other comments on the document management system?
Not on that, I just do have a question on the security. I mean, yeah, how vulnerable are we as council? It's probably not the right place to be asking. How vulnerable are we as councillors to inadvertently, regardless of training and regardless of systems, bringing something in or having something seep through to infiltrate council information, documents, or whatever?
Through the chair, I suggest that perhaps this isn't the forum for me to give ourselves a score of our
Yeah, that wasn't a before, just more, yeah.
That's the conversation to have under risk, because that's sort of information that you wouldn't want anyone who's
Yes,
potentially in the
yes.
space of trying to.
Trying to
manage
yes,
systems.
yeah.
I can reassure the committee that we're doing our best.
Yes. I've got no doubt on that one, Richard, at all, really haven't. I don't know what sort of system you've got in place, but I had a phone call last night at 11:15 that flashed on my screen could be spam. I thought, that'll do me just fine, thank you, I won't answer it. I don't know if that comes through what controls you've got in place, but I was quite surprised to see it.
Well, it's a worldwide problem, and, I think from what I've seen, council does very well in terms of protecting the systems.
And that's good coming from you too, with the diverse spread that you have of your own skill base and involvement too, that your perception of our.
But again, if you do a Google and see some of the really big organisations that have been breached, including some highly sensitive ones, it's just an ongoing battle, really. But, I think, from what I've seen, there's some really good processes in place, using penetration testing and stuff like that, those types of tests.
It's a huge responsibility for your department, your team.
Thank you for reminding me.
So now we've got Richard really worried. Would anyone like to move that we receive the report and any feedback, suggestions or recommendations of working group we provide to the committee's who is convenience? And that we recommend the continued commitment to the work of the information management team, which we absolutely do.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Moved to worship, seconded. Councillor, all in favour?
Right.
Thank you. We'll now move to, now we've done sensitive 1, we'll do sensitive 2 in the expenditure department.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Richard.
Through the chair, as mentioned in the action list, this is the sensitive expenditure policy, which you requested is brought back, including the OAG principles at the beginning of the policy. We have updated those, but just to note that the principles are, the whole policy is written by those principles. Take any questions?
Oh, where's Jane going? Is Jane lost?
No, through your chair, she's still online.
I think she's.
Any questions, councillors, your worship?
No,
Can we have a motion to resolve that the report be received and the updated sensitive expenditure policy, including Office of the Auditor General principles, be received? Councillor, seconder? Councillor, all in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. And I will now resolve that the Risk Insurance Committee move into public excluded session at 1:48 p.m. And we will adjourn for 2 minutes. I'll second the please. Yep. Thank you, Your Worship. All in favour? And we will now have 2 minutes of silence to allow the committee to disconnect.